Okay. So welcome everyone. So today we're going to look at Assemble, as I said earlier. It's going to be an introduction. We're going to have a look at the workflows within Assemble. But before we do that, really, what I want to do is have a look at the, I guess, the challenges and trends that that we're looking at today. I guess you're probably all aware of this, really, but the construction is the most collaborative business in the world. But it's sometimes taking hundreds of companies to just to put a building up. But information is siloed. It's trapped in binders, folders, spreadsheets, different cloud applications, or even just emails, which means information sharing is pretty much delayed. It potentially exposes team members, I guess, to not be working on the right version, the versions of reality, I suppose. So I guess, like I said, this primes your team to missing deadlines, decreasing productivity, making errors, and I'm sure that all sounds quite familiar to you. The other option we're looking at, the other thing we're looking at here is, as we know, margins are razor thin. Yeah, in the construction industry, it's the largest in the world economy. It's about $12 trillion globally will be spent on construction-related goods and services by the end of this year alone. And it accounts roughly for 15% of the world's GDP and employs about 7% of the world's working age population. So these low margins are also reinforced by a number of internal and external challenges. I mean, such as, so we've got the reinventing the wheel. Even though problems are often very similar, each project team still seeks its own solution, and there's no standardization. Extensive subcontracting is a challenge for coordination and communication. And we're coping with complexity these days that we never did before. And there's also a failure to adapt to new technology. So the same report also lists a number of important initiatives which the construction market can actually reform, providing opportunities to meet the challenges we've just seen, providing opportunities to turn these ideas into real work processes. And basically that's the goal of Autodesk. So with the Autodesk Construction Cloud solutions from Autodesk, we can tackle the construction process in a connected way that was never possible before. Processes can be digitized and standardized, optimizing cooperation in the project team with subcontractors. Complex projects become manageable, and the report indicates as an idea, 5D becomes a feasible map. What is also important, that Autodesk Construction Cloud provides continuous support for all of the project phases, for all of the team members. So today we're going to look at a platform that can support the planning phase and the implementation phase, but not only just work with it, but thoroughly optimize it. Firstly, Assemble is a technology in which project teams can use BIM information to efficiently prepare their work for construction, including calculation and execution. And secondly, Assemble is a solution where BIM data can be made very accessible for all the team on the site. So what is Assemble? Good question. I guess it's important to Autodesk not only that the entire project team has quick access to BIM models, but the BIM information can be manipulated so that it can form a basis of business critical workflows, such as calculation, change management, value engineering, that sort of thing. For each of these processes, we can group, sort, and filter BIM data differently. In that way, we automate how data is used, and there we will reduce risks and improve efficiencies. The result of the process can even be put back into the model as an additional BIM information. So all business processes such as calculations, work preparation and execution need different data structures where data must be organized correctly. Conditioning is the process of reorganizing this data from the design model so that it can be used automatically by the different processes. On this slide, you'll see an example where a constructive model was needed to be able to use for quantities, calculations, work preparations, planning, etc. So how do we get that information in the relevant form from the BIM model, you ask? Well, this can be done by the project team itself. And of course, the BIM model may not contain all the necessary information. So how can we supplement this information without having to be a BIM modeler? And Assemble provides the answer to this. So on the right, we see the most important business processes that Assemble can support, such as calculations, change management, work preparation, and value engineering. Integrated pre-construction is therefore not just about being better quantities, but strategy where we optimize costs and planning in all areas while maintaining transparency with the owner and the rest of the project team. It's also giving opportunities to make the handoff process from the pre-construction phase to the construction phase a seamless experience. And this with a number of important workflows on the left, such as automatic quantification, conditioning of models, and change analysis. And I guess what we're looking at is really is you. All of these workflows are based on what you need and what you want to achieve. With Assemble, you manipulate the data yourself so that it's relevant to what you need and what you want to achieve. You filter the data you need. You group the data into structure that is necessary for your work. And as a result, you immediately have right quantities. You will have an immediate understanding which data has been changed with new versions, and you can add your results into the BIM model to share with the project team. And this is how we get collaborative project teams. Let's now look at these workflows in more detail. So to see how Assemble is an indispensable tool for the entire project team to support BIM projects, we'll go through a number of workflows. First, we'll look at how the entire team has immediate access to the BIM data and how they can review the project via Assemble and manipulate data so that the data is immediately usable for everyone on the job. So firstly, a project is created, and then the users are invited to that project. So in this workflow, the design team will make the decision when the project team has access to the new version of the model. Designers can take the decision with one click via integrated functions in the design applications such as Revit and AutoCAD. Linked projects are also recognized and can be included in one go. Naturally, other formats can be used in the project, and these can be uploaded via Navisworks into Assemble project environment. And because Navisworks supports dozens of file formats, there are almost no restrictions to the data formats. So let's have a look at this in action. So we're going to show inside Revit, and here you see the Assemble add-on. Let's put in, and we get a ribbon. We just choose the right hub and then the project that this model needs to go to, and it will know all of the linked files, so we can actually upload all those linked files in one go. And as I said before, it's in any format. So if we do the same in Navisworks, you've actually got the Assemble add-in in here as well. So here we have two files, an FBX file and an IFC file. So all we need to do is go to the correct ribbon. So it's an Assemble ribbon, and we have a simple button that says Publish. Again, we need to choose the correct hub. We connect to that hub, and then we'll actually choose which project that needs to go to. And again, we can choose which file format we actually want to send up. So if we wanted all of them, we just pick Continue, and all are put up there. So this is Assemble. This is what we see inside a project. So we're actually inside this project, and you'll see all of those models all in there from either AutoCAD, Revit, or indeed Navisworks. So now all the data is in Assemble. The whole team can now actually review the models. So anybody you've invited to that, you can actually, they can gain access to this. So this can be done via iOS or a normal web browser, in which you can, we can not only review the 3D models, but also the 2D sheets, which is important because they contain extra information. The team not only has an immediate insight into the complete model, through real-time sectioning, we get an understanding of every detail. In order to make the right decisions at all times, we always have an overview of the spatial relationship, measuring, isolation, isolating nodes, etc., are options that support this. So let's have a look at that. So in this case, we're actually looking at one particular model, and we can actually view this in multiple ways. We can actually start to change how we actually visualize this. So we can actually set, in this case, a hidden line detail. We've also got our set views that we can switch between as well. So here we've gone back to a shaded view on one of the elevation views. So the other option as well is we've got the option to actually turn on or look at the drawing sheets as well. So all of the drawing sheets that are pushed up with the model are available to everybody as well. And we can actually see these side by side. So you can see whichever drawing sheet we want, side by side with the 3D model. So in this case, we've got an elevation. So let's just change the 3D model around to the same type of elevation. Now, if we select an object in the 3D model, you'll see that the actual object is visible inside the drawing sheet. And as we click through, we get the same thing. So if we turn all these drawing sheets on, now because we've got that window selected, it'll actually give us the drawing sheets that only that window is visible in. So we choose one here, it's plan, and you can see it's still selected. So again, we get a greater representation between the 3D model and the 2D drawing sheets. And just like inside Navisworks, we can actually walk and explore inside the building, inside this viewer as well. So as you can see here, we've also got our cross-sectioning, so we can choose which way axis we want to actually section this. And we actually get two cross-sections on each axis, so we can actually do exactly what we're doing on here. And then we can turn those planes off, so we just get the actual model. So it gives us a better understanding of what's inside the model. And again, we can actually then start to change the visualization of this as well. So in this case, if we wanted a hidden line view, we can do so. We can also start to highlight objects inside the model tree. So in this case, we've got a specific door we're interested in. And what I love about this is we've got this X-ray vision. We can actually turn on the X-ray vision within that section view, and it will actually show us all of those doors within here. And as if with many other views, we've actually got the ability to start to measure within here. So we can start to put some measurements in and check what measurements we need. Even if they're not on any drawing sheets, we can actually create our own dimensioning. So now that we've actually put the models up there, and we've actually put all the linked files in there, we can start to aggregate these models. So if we wanted to perhaps see a couple of models together, but maybe there wasn't a Revit model that had this information in, we can do so on the fly inside Assemble. So the project as a whole is important to the team, and that's why we can combine models on the fly into one virtual project environment in which you then filter the data that you need for your job. And with Assemble, we also have access to rich BIM data source. However, a BIM model usually does not contain all of the data that is required during the pre-construction and the construction. And Assemble gives the team the opportunity to add this data so that it can be consumed by the whole team. So let's have a look at actually opening a model up and aggregating a view for ourselves. So we've got multiple projects here. So if we go to this particular project, and these are the models. So if we actually select one, so in this case, we'll go to the structural model. And that's great. We can see all the structural detail, the information there that we need. But in this case, I want to actually see the structures with some of the building systems. So let's turn on the plumbing. So now we have both the plumbing and the structures together. In this case, we'll turn on the electrical and other building systems as well. And we can see this information together. So we've got the control on what information, what models we see together. And this can be stuff, again, from Revit or from Navisworks. So in this exercise, what we can do is just turn all of the different models on. So we can see all of these models aggregated together. So at the very beginning, we saw that the title here was the putting the eye in BIM. So all that information is there. So if you hover over anything, we get an idea of what it is and also the quantities. So if we just hover over anything, we actually get that information for us. We can also select an object in there, and we can actually turn on the properties. So these properties all come from, in this case, Revit. So we get all of the Revit properties available to us in here. So we can check out dimensions and so on. But we also have the ability to have assemble properties as well. So in this case, here are our assemble properties. So we've got, you can actually create these properties as you want. In this case, we've actually got a bid package. So we're actually adding this to a bid package called brick walls. And we can give it an activity ID at this point as well. And all this information can be actually seen within the model tree. So as we said before, the information you need to do your job. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're actually going to turn off some of these objects because we don't need everything in here. But what we're going to do is also filter out some of the things that we don't want inside a particular model. So we want the structures, but we only want, in this case, the steels. But we've also still got all of the building systems here, all the mechanical and plumbing. Now, what is good is obviously we need this information back again. So another day we could come back for that information. We can actually save those particular views, and they'll actually be available to us and the whole team to view. So here's, we see a few views that were actually created. So if we wanted to get to the field steel view, we just pick that view and everything's preset for us. And the same thing if we just wanted to see, in this case, walls. In this case, this is for a quantity takeoff. So if we want to do a QTO on just the walls, this is the view we actually need. And if we need that information to go to other people in the team, it's available for them as well. So we've seen how we can aggregate all our models to start to see the information that we need. Now we'll take a look at how we can further the assemble's ability to group, condition, and use quantities. Now, I think this is where assemble sets itself above anything else. So via the inventory, we get a global view of all of the BIM information. And it also automatically shows the quantities using any structure per object, per level, per work package. You can choose yourself. Of course, you don't always need all of the data. So with the dynamic filters, we can determine exactly what you need for your job. And to gain a better insight into the data and also to improve the communication with other team members, we can automatically assign the colors based on the BIM information, as you can see on the screen here. And then you save the condition model so that other team members can use this information. Again, another proof of Assemble's collaboration. So let's have a look at how we can do this. So So in this case, we've got the 3D model here again. And again, here we can see here are the doors. We can actually specify specific doors. We can actually see that it's actually listing out walls and all of the information that we actually need. Okay. But if we wanted more information, we can do so. We can actually choose which columns we see. So you can actually then determine what columns you don't need. So in this case, we don't need perimeter, but we might need, in this case, the function, whether it's an external or an internal wall. Then maybe the structural material. We might need to know what the material is for that particular. And then be great to actually separate this out by level. So now if we look at the walls, you've got all the information you had before, but now we've got the function, the structural material, and its level. So again, we can actually see, not only can we see this information in the structural team, but the actual model changes as well. So in this case, if we highlight the rectangular ducts, we see them highlighted inside the model. So it's not only just the information that we've got there, but we've got those quantities, and they're, I guess they're intelligent quantities. So in this case, we've actually got the length of that particular steel. And it also groups the information together. So we can actually see not only the individual quantities, but we can actually see the grouped quantities as well. Okay, so in this information, we've got things like doors. Doors are set to each. It's exactly what we need. And if we go to, in this case, the railings. So here we've got a pipe railing here. We actually have the length of pipe railing. And again, with the door, with the walls, we've actually got square meters, but we can change this. So if we actually wanted to see cubic meters for this, if we wanted to see the volume rather than the area of the walls here, we can do so by changing in the properties. It will actually automatically change in the actual tree that we see here. So in this case, we're going to see 3 examples of how we can actually structure that information together. So at the moment, we've got everything grouped by category. In this case, what we're going to do is we're actually going to tell us to show only the walls, but we don't want, we only want walls. We don't actually want curtain walls in here. So what we can do is we can actually filter the view to only show us walls without curtain walls. So now we can only see those particular walls, which is great. But we need now to maybe to group this differently. We don't just want walls and the type of walls. We actually want this grouped slightly differently. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually change how this is grouped by, and we're going to create our own grouping. So in this case, we'll just call it walls, function, level. Remember, we turn the function and the level on. So we actually want this grouped not only just by walls, but what function, whether they're external or internal, and then the level as well. So what we're doing is we're actually changing the structure of how we see this tree. So as you can see here, we've got the exterior or interior and then the levels. And we can actually view this. If we highlight these, you actually see the levels actually appearing on the model as well as highlighted objects. And again, after that, we actually see the type of wall and then the individual walls as well. So why not, let's color this information. So we're going to color this by its function. So we just choose the function option and we can choose whichever color we want to actually view this as. And we get the color dot appearing in the listing as well as on the model. And obviously, we want to get back to this particular view. So let's change this. And this will be available not only to us, but again, the rest of the team. So if we look at the same type of ideas for the structural guys, again, we've got a structural view, but here we only want really the steels. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're actually going to start to ask only to see structural columns and structural framing. But we actually want to filter it out a little bit more as well. So we're actually going to filter it so the material has within it the word steel. Doesn't have to start, end, or it just has to have the word steel with inside the material. And again, we've got it grouped by category. We need to change this as well. So we're going to actually group this by category type name, category and type name. So category name and then the type name. So for this particular view, we've now actually changed our structure. So we actually have the columns in one and the framing in another. So in this case, it's actually showing us the units by weight. So we're actually changing this to length. So now we actually see the actual length of all of the materials needed for this framing and the columns. And finally, what we'll do with the structure is we're going to actually change the color. So we're going to actually color this by the type name. And again, you could, if you want to, change these colors. So there we can see the colors also in the structural tree. And as before, we'll save this information for others or for us later on. So finally, for those of you working on the MEP side of things, we're going to do exactly the same. So in this case, we need to turn on the mechanical and the plumbing together. But we're actually only going to ask for pipe fittings, pipes, ducts, and duct fittings. We're not going to filter out anything other than that, but we will change to how it's grouped. So in this case, we're going to group it for further down. So we're going to use MEP classification and classification. Then we're going to go for category name, the family name, and the type name. So you can actually see now we've got supply air, we've got the duct fittings, we've got particular ducts, whether they're round or rectangular, and we can set those out. And something I really love on this one is the actual ability now to color this by the system classification. So those of you into the building system side of things, you get a better idea of that, your classifications just in that particular view. And again, like I said, we need to save this information so we can get back to it. And there's all the information here. So just one click, we can actually go back to that particular view, and you can see that the group by is set, and we can then choose which one of the others. And again, everything's saved to get back to for us and for the rest of the team. Okay, moving on now. Now let's see how Assemble fits nicely into some specific workflows. And we'll start with the quantity takeoff process. So as you can see, we've seen that you can actually get the quantities that we can verify by either from the tree structure, by the listing, or we can actually use the actual model at this point as well. So for people involved in the QTO, the quantity takeoff process, it's extremely important to have immediate access to the quantities. And this is what the inventory allows us to do. But we also see quantities immediately also in the 3D model themselves. So everywhere we have access to this information. For example, the estimator can validate and calculate the models via the model as well as via the inventory. But both are only views on the same data. It's exactly the same information. If you select an object in the inventory, it also happens in the 3D view. And this gives the estimator a complete understanding of the job. So we can also enrich this information. We can actually load up. So these are preconfined cost codes that we can use in this case. And you can upload your own cost codes within here. So we can actually enrich that information, and we can start to add objects to a particular cost coding. So in this case here, as an estimator, you'll also feed the model information as well. So not only are we just taking the information from the design team, but we're actually feeding information back in, okay? So that information is important to other team members and not just for yourselves. If you consider, for example, cost codes whose structures can be imported into Assemble, possibly the cost price that you also want to have into the model as well. And as we've seen before, we can also group the information and start to condition this. So again, we could have a QTO grouping conditioning view. In this case, you can see here, we've actually got the steels here, and we've actually conditioned it so it colors anything that's done, anything that's open, or if there's a design issue that we need to report back through to the team. And as you can see here, we can filter that information and group that information as we need. We can also start to link to Excel. So we can actually link this information through to an Excel spreadsheet. And we can export and import that information from Excel as well. Basically, it just means that we can actually update that information inside the spreadsheet. And because it's linked, we can actually just synchronize that information. And that information goes back into the model as well. So as I said, there's the ability then to link that information. And the nice thing is it's not just held within inside a spreadsheet. You use the spreadsheet maybe to do the costings, for quantity takeoffs and that sort of thing. But once you've done that information, you may be doing more calculations. That information can be then fed back into the model. Now, we've also got the ability to communicate to those that are using BIM 360. So we can actually start to link these files to a BIM 360 account as well. And if there's any issues, maybe some design issues that we need to sort out, if we're a little bit worried that the people may not just be in Assemble, they may be in BIM 360, we can start to create issues inside the model that will actually be fed back and controlled inside BIM 360 as well. So in this case, here we can see the BIM 360. So if we create the issue, it will take a snapshot of the issue. We can actually bring that information through. Once we've gone into BIM 360, you see the same information. So we actually see the whole activity for that, and we'll see that in a little while in a video. As what I said before, is we can actually export that information back from not only from the spreadsheet into the model in Assemble, but we can also take that back through to the model inside Revit. So in this case, and we'll see this in a video, we actually got the manufacturer of these doors, the coding, and also the data that's needed for that particular information. So like I said, we can import that back through. So here's the QTO workflow as an example. So in this case, we're going to choose one of the set views. Now, again, the estimator in this case can see all the information here, but they can actually then select on here and see that information inside the model and vice versa. So again, it's actually grouped by exactly how they want. So in this case, if we look at a particular structural column, the structural columns, we can see the properties and also where they are within that particular project. And we can see individuals as well. And what is quite nice, we can actually zoom into that particular object. So we see exactly where it is in the model. It's not just a list of steels that are required to do the quantities. We can check that. But we can also use the model itself. So again, hovering over an item, we actually see what type of object it is, and in this case, the length as well. And all that information. So if we actually highlight all that information, we can actually see more information that we need, and we can turn on other columns if needed. So if we wanted to add information in now, if we actually select all of this information, we can actually see the properties for everything in one go. So in this case, we're actually going to add this information to a bid package. So steel columns and framing is the name we're giving to that bid package. Now, if we highlight an individual type of, in this case, column, we can then actually add these cost codes. So these cost codes can be predefined. We can actually load them in. We can load them in from another package via an Excel spreadsheet. And then we can actually see. So we've actually done the quantity takeoff for this. And my colleague Johan's just putting his name to that as well. So now we can see that information here. So straight away, we can see whether a QTO status is done, the cost coding, and who actually did that at QTO. And again, we can actually change how we actually view this. So we could view it as a QTO. So we can see if we've got some design issues that we actually need to ask questions of, and we can see what we've actually done and what's open. So if a colleague is now taking over, that colleague knows what needs to be done. And to make it easier, we can actually do this by color as well. So we can actually change this to a QTO status. And now we have a color for each of those statuses. And we can do a traffic light type scenario here. So obviously, if we've got some design issues, we might want to feed this back to our a team that are using BIM 360 docs and build. So all we need to do is create a little pin in here and create an issue. So this is much the same as if you were using BIM 360, creating issues. We can assign it to a person or a company or a group of individuals, and we can push that through. Now, at the moment, the BIM 360 linking is only available if you've got BIM 360 on a US site. If you've got an EU site that you're using for BIM 360, we can't do the BIM 360 linking as yet. It's on the roadmap, and we're hoping that very soon we can actually do this for projects that are on the EU server. So this is actually inside BIM 360, and this is the information we see. So here's Johan's issue that he created inside Assemble. He can see it inside BIM 360, and anything that's changed also gets pushed back into Assemble as well. So as we said, the data linking inside using Excel, we might want to push this information out to Excel for somebody to do the quantities in Excel. So here it is. We've actually linked this, and this is an Assemble ribbon inside Excel. Again, another download that you can you can add. So here's the file. So here we've got some quantities that are still open. Now we may have just done those quantities, so we can actually then see that information inside our properties. And in here, what we've got is now we're changing that to open, from open to done. And now all we need to do is synchronize inside Excel, and it'll change to done inside here, just with a click of a button. So obviously inside Excel, we might want to do other things. In this case, we've got a volume plus a waste. So whoever's doing the quantities might want to start putting some other information in here, like the quantities plus waste. We can do this inside Assemble, but if it's done inside Excel, we can just we can actually update that, synchronize, and it's then available inside Assemble. So here we're going to export some more information. So in this case, we're looking at the doors. So again, we just export that information. It will always do the name as the file name plus the date and the time. So if we open up that Excel spreadsheet, we see all that information from that particular view for these doors. So this is the Excel spreadsheet. No need to use templates or anything. This is how it actually pushes the information out. So we can actually see it's actually linked to how it's actually inside inside Assemble. So again, whoever's using these quantity takeoff, they might want to now fill out the information such as manufacturer, the product data, and so on and so forth, including the costs. And as before, we've actually got the assemble ribbon where we can actually then synchronize, or we can actually just import that information back into our assemble. And all that information is there for us straight away into assemble. So in this case, we're going to change the color properties to manufacturer. And as I said before, that information, we don't want that siloed inside just assemble or that spreadsheet. We want it back into to Revit. So just inside Revit, we can automatically sync. We just make sure we choose the right file we're syncing and the view. So the view that we've actually created before, we're actually just choosing that. And then straight away, we get that information straight back into Revit. So we're also now going to have a look at the pre-construction workflow. So in this case, we can start to create, we can prepare work packages exactly the same way. We can then dynamically filter all that data that we need, and we can use object properties to create those filters. And we can also then use colors to emphasize information. So again, you can verify what is actually needed and how much. And then again, we can actually send that information out to the supplier via a spreadsheet. And the beauty is that any changes, we can actually update that information. We'll see this in the video. Again, we can enrich that information. So if maybe I'm the person who is actually ordering this information, I can actually assign two objects, whether they were been ordered, yes or no, and the actual order date as well. Obviously, if we've actually linked, if we're working with BIM 360, there may well be information, maybe just PDF files, that we actually want to link to that particular information. So we can actually link that information from BIM 360, again, currently on the US server, soon to be EU server. We can link that information through with inside Assemble. So yes, like I said, we can attach that documentation, whether it be a DWG, a Revit file, or anything else, or in most cases, in this case, a PDF. So we can see that information in the video. So again, we've got all our views set up. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're actually going to look at, so we're looking at structural, architectural, and mechanical. And we actually start to hide bits and pieces. So although we're looking at all of those models, we can actually start to hide other bits and pieces as well. In this case, what we're going to do is we're actually going to look at, we just want to have duct systems, anything that contains duct within it. And we're also going to do this by level, because we might just want to actually separate this information out by level. So here we're actually seeing level 4. So we're actually color this by system classification. Now we're also going to put a section on in here. Though we're only asking for a particular level, I want to put a section on because I want to actually turn on the X-ray option as well. So here's all our duct information. And we're actually going to choose to have the other bits of pieces in here as well as an X-ray view. So although we're only seeing a particular level of ductwork in here, we actually want to see it in place, so we can actually see an X-ray version of the actual model as well, the rest of the model, which we needed the section for. And again, we can save that information. Now the beauty is obviously in this case what we've done this per level, so we have a different view per level. So we've gone back to level 4 here. So we've now created all those levels and that information. So now we're ready to actually order that information for that particular level. So let's start at, we're actually doing, let's look at the doors now. So this is level 1 doors and windows. So now we're going to turn those doors off. So we're going to create another version. So this is our windows option in here. So we can choose our windows. All that necessary information is all within inside our view, and then we can export this information. So here we've actually got, we're going to change this to order windows, and it creates our spreadsheet for us. So if we open up that spreadsheet just to get an idea of what the information is in here, so that we can actually send this information out. And here Johan is now emailing this to Peter for his window order. So this is our level 1 windows now sent. And obviously, because he sent that order through, he needs to update. So this is a construction property. He puts that order date in and says, yes, it's been ordered. In this case, we're actually going to color this by whether it's been ordered or not. So we get a better representation, so we can see what's actually been ordered and what's not. And again, we can actually now, we can either update that existing view, but in this case, we're going to create a new view. So we're actually going to do a Windows ordered view. So again, we're actually now syncing that information. So this is our Windows ordered information. Now, even inside our Revit model, we actually know what's actually been ordered or not. And as I said, if you wanted to link the BIM 360 information, we can actually highlight more than one object. Now, because we've linked this information, all of the project files are all available for us. So we can actually start to link PDF files into Assemble. And we can actually see this. We can actually turn on the hyperlink option in here, so we can actually see what's actually linked. And hover over that, we can see the actual document, and we can actually even open this document. And this will open it directly from BIM 360. So next we're going to have a look at the field workflow. So, bringing that data, I guess, to outside in the field. Now, this is primarily done by an iOS. So if you've got an iPad, it's only iPad at the moment, but again, Android should be with us very soon. But again, we can actually start to view the model. You can use this offline and online, so you can actually sync the data on the iPad. So if you've got no signal out on site, you can actually make sure you take that information with you within the office. Again, we can start to see not only objects, but rooms. So again, we can actually see those objects and quantities out on site. So basically all of the information we've got in Assemble on your desktop, in the office, we've got on a mobile device as well. And again, we can actually see how they're actually grouped exactly how we need to. Again, like I said, we can actually work in place. So we can actually see exactly where we are. We can actually go to a particular room. We can actually be in that particular room, and we can move our iPad around to actually see exactly what we're looking at actually on the model as well. It gets great use of barcodes or QR codes as well. So if you're not sure exactly where you are within the building on the model, if you've got a QR code that you've actually assigned to a particular location, you can actually scan that QR code, and it will actually put you in the model exactly where that position is. We can also update information. So if we're going around and where we saw the order, we can also do it whether an object is actually installed or not. So we can actually go around and we can actually choose a window, find it on the model and actually say, yep, that's been installed. That information then will be then synced back through Assemble and then even into the Revit model as well. So let's have a look at that in practice. So this is our iPad. So these are the models we've actually got access to. So you'll see we can actually make a view available offline, and it will always tell you when you last synced. So if you feel that maybe its chances are it's been updated, we can actually sync that information for us as well. So here we can see that we got the normal navigation, we got the pinch and pull options for our zooming in and rotating around. We can also use camera presets. So if we just wanted to see the left side of the building or the plan and so on and so forth, we can choose that. Really, really simple. So we don't need to always just twist it around. We've also got the ability to start to section, just like you could with the viewer on the on your desktop or inside the internet viewer. And again, we can actually start to create some really smart sectional views. So we can also highlight objects and see that information as well. So like we said, it's data rich. So if, for instance, we actually wanted to hide, in this case, maybe the ceiling, we can pick that in there and hide it so we get a better view of what we're actually wanting to see. And there you can see it's hidden. And then all our objects are now available for our quantities. And as it says, quantities on all object levels. So depending on what level you're on, you can actually then start to check the quantities for that particular level. So here we've actually got, in this case, we've selected 3 items. We can actually then ask to view those items, and it will actually just view those objects and a section view of that as well. We can start to measure. So if we wanted to actually check some dimensions on the model, we can also then check them against the actual constructed building. So again, straight away we get ideas of dimensioning. Right, so in this case, we're actually going to be maybe inside one of the rooms. So we're actually going to switch to rooms. It then gives us our room numbers, and we can actually start to search for a particular room. So I'm in room 113. So I need to go and see where that is on the actual model. There it is on the model. It's highlighting that particular room. But I can also get into that room as well. So I just pick the option to actually go into the room. There I am in that particular room. Now I've actually got the iPad in this case, and I can move the iPad around. I can tilt it as I move, and I can actually select objects in the model to make sure what I've got in the actual in the building is exactly what it says into the model as well. And there you can see all of the details, all of the properties for that particular air terminal. So I just tilt my device around. I can look around that particular room. So in this case, the model, as I walk around, I can actually just tilt the iPad forward slightly, and it will actually walk with me inside the model as I walk. So in this case here, the ceiling's not there yet, so I need to hide that so I can actually see more information. So here we can actually start to see our duct system, and I can actually start to pick objects in here, and that actually gives me more information about that particular object. And as I said before, not only can you do the locations by searching, we can actually go straight to our QR code or our barcode, and that will actually put us straight into. So if we didn't know what area we were in, we just wanted to actually make sure we were in the model, we just use the barcodes. Make great use of the barcodes. So in this case, we're actually going to have a look at, this is just the structural foundations, a particular view that we've actually got in here. So this is by set by a particular view. And in this case, we can also do it by the area as well. So here we're actually looking at the type of work we're looking at is the flooring areas. So again, we've got a view set for that particular job. And here again, going back to the duct fittings. This is by order information, so we can actually start to see what's been ordered and what's not been ordered yet. So this is great. This is actually set by planning information. So in other words, we've actually got our week set. So we can actually see very quickly by color what week we're on and what should be actually where we should be at this particular point in time. In that case, for week 10 and 11, that's where the steels should be on that insert. So we can actually see straight away whether we're in front or behind. So this is what I was saying about in this case, the windows. Maybe we can actually check to see what windows are installed or not. So we can go around, we can actually check. Now we can actually feed that model with field information. What I mean by that is as we're walking around, is in this case, maybe we're on level 1, we can actually determine whether a window has actually been installed or not. So beauty again is if the object actually has a QR code or a barcode, it will find it straight away inside the actual model. So if we've actually picked the QR code or the barcode on the object, it'll tell us which one it is in the model. And we can actually say, well, actually, we can change the install status to installed. And again, that information will then be fed straight back into our assemble. And that information, when we synchronize, that'll be there also for the Revit model as well. Okay, so change management. Let's have a look at the change management. So what we can see with inside change management, I guess really, I quite like the way that it actually colors this information. I'm actually going to go straight into this change management because obviously as the model changes, we need to synchronize that information into assemble. So when we sync, we make sure we choose the right model we're syncing with. It will automatically pre-select the one we had before. And then we can actually start to see the different versions. We've also get the date and the time that those versions were actually updated. So in this case, we're actually on version 4 of a particular model, so the structures model. And as you see in here, if we turn other bits on, we can actually not only do a version checking for one particular model, but multiple models. So in this case, the architectural models at version 4, structures at version 3. We can do some comparisons for all of the models, but we can also do changes between not only the latest version, but maybe version 3 to 1, and so on and so forth. So we can actually to see overall changes as well. And you also see the models colored. If we have a look at the colors here, you can see that it's not just whether it's added or removed. We can actually see if it's just a type change or a quantities change. So if something is actually just changed by length, it will actually color it different. So this is a really great tool for our change management. So not only does it color it, but also does a comparison as well. So here we've actually got, see, the A and B. So this is the version 1 and 2 maybe, and then the variance. So we can actually see exactly how much it's actually changed by. And it may be an insignificant amount, maybe a massive amount, which is going to actually change our quantities and maybe our ordering in this case as well. So if we're in this change management view, we can actually hover over it. We'll also just tell you the change on the tooltip as well. So there's our variance. So again, in this case for the duct fittings, it shows exactly the variance we've actually got in here. And obviously, if this information is changed, we need to export this out to someone else so we can actually send this off. So in this case, we're going to have a look at the ducts. So we're going to ask to show the changes. We see the changes that there are visually, but we can also export this. So this is a duct change report that we've just created again. If we open this up in Excel, here are all the changes. It gives us our quantities before and after and the differences as well. The beauty as well also is each element inside the model actually has its own source ID. So we can actually pinpoint this. So if anybody's actually gone in and maybe seen a previous report, they can actually see whether something's actually changed by that particular, by the source ID. So this, obviously, this information is great, was inside Assemble, but we might want to see a little bit more information. So we can actually start to create some reports. Now we can actually link this information. Obviously, we've seen Excel, so we've got plenty of reports in Excel, but we can also link this information to Power BI. And you can actually use your Power BI analysis and reporting for this. So any information you've got inside Assemble, whether it's from Revit or from an Excel spreadsheet back into Assemble, we can start to report and use some analysis on this using the Power BI. So I guess that's a whistle-stop tour through Assemble. So supported platforms, obviously the plugins that are available, they're available for Revit, AutoCAD and Navisworks, not for Revit LT. It'll work in most browsers. The only one I've not tested it, but it wasn't listed, is Microsoft Edge. I didn't see that, but then I believe that's going to be very, very soon. And for the mobile devices, at the moment, it's just iOS. So whether you've got an iPad or an iPhone on site, you can use that. But again, as I said, Android is coming. So the available products, I guess this is where, so at the moment, what we've just really been seeing is this Assemble Insight. What you saw there was just pretty much all Insight. You've got also the ability to add other bits and pieces as well. So the Assemble Connect for Power BI is an add-on as such. So that's a cost option as well. For pricing, it's at the moment the licensing is very different. You can have I guess the lowest cost pricing is for one project, but it's multiple users. So all of these licenses they use are unlimited users. You can invite anybody to those projects, but they also then have another couple of levels as well. So you can actually purchase what they call a site license, and you can have multiple projects within that, but again, unlimited users as well. So get in touch with your reseller for the pricing for that as well. Okay. When we look at the links, again, this is an add-on that you can add. You can actually link to Primavera P6 and other packages as well. There's also a point cloud desktop option as well that you can start to link the point cloud. So if you're out there with your 3D scanners on buildings, really powerful product. It can start to do clashes between the Revit modeling and the points cloud and so on. So I'll just go through basics with the BIM 360. I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that it is at the moment, you can link to BIM 360 on US servers only at the moment. I can't give you a date for the EU server, but it's going to get there at some point in time. But it allows us to start to link our models from BIM 360 through to Assemble as well. Again, there's the document linking. As I said before, we can actually start to push documents through from BIM 360, whether it be a PDF that you want to set to when an object is ordered, you can set that through. And also the issues as well. We can actually start to do issuing, issue tracking within BIM 360 and assemble. They're both linked. And you're going to see more and more of this integration as assemble grows to be more linked with BIM 360. So I guess conclusion, pretty much, I'm not going to read all those bits and pieces. But one thing I would say is, I guess the important thing with assemble is being able to filter, sort, group, and really important is condition of information, BIM information. All too often we push out models that look great to us. They're how we want them, but they're not necessarily what's available or what's needed for the construction stage. But the beauty of this is you don't have to be a BIM modeler. You don't have to be an expert in Revit or Navisworks. You can very quickly, as you saw today, you can very quickly start to get the views that you want with the information that you want. And what is really great as well, we can push more information back into that particular model, and that can then be fed back straight back through to even the Revit file or any information through that we've actually put from an Excel spreadsheet through to assemble into the model as well. So that just finishes off that presentation. I did notice there was a couple of questions. I think if you're okay to hang around, we can go through those questions. So Jason has asked, is it possible to keep some information private as some costs, etc., may be sensitive? Yes, I guess that is quite, I can understand that. I guess really you need to, that there is a level that you can give permissions to. So I guess you'd have to make sure that certain people don't get permissions to certain parts of the project. I guess that's the only. I guess the other thing is with assemble is transparency, is letting the whole team see as much information as you want. So I guess if this something is sensitive, you don't necessarily want that information all the way through, then it just doesn't go in. It can stay as a spreadsheet as such. Not, you don't have to import it into assemble. How is assemble different from BIM 360? That's a good one. That is a good one. BIM 360 and assemble, I guess if you go back to, I think it's 18 months ago, they were two, I wouldn't say competing, they competed in certain areas. And you can see Autodesk obviously saw the benefits of assemble. That's why they purchased assemble. And I think we will start to see, I guess, stuff that will actually start to work together. Yes, we're seeing it already. So the issues, rather than somebody doing an issue in BIM 360 and also a different issue inside assemble, we're seeing those linking together. I think really what you're looking at is if you wanted to push information to people who want to start to change how that information is viewed, rather than just seeing what's inside BIM 360 and what I'm allowed to see inside BIM 360. I can create my own views inside assemble. I guess really, I mean, I think you answered that about half an hour ago. So hopefully you can start to see that information, the difference between the two as it stands at the moment anyway. And another anonymous attendee, can Kobe and Uniclass information be added through assemble instead of Revit? Yes, you can. You can actually start to, those properties you can update inside assemble. Yeah, and Uniclass, we can actually start to use one of the videos that I've got elsewhere is how we can actually import that Uniclass information. So we can start putting stuff through. And basically all you do is you import the actual class structure inside Assemble, and then you can start to assign certain things. So as you see in the tree, if you select walls, you can actually start to assemble, choose which walls go into whatever class and so on and so forth. But yes, so yeah, you can. I mean, Kobe, I mean, there's some great tools for getting it inside Revit, and also Navisworks. Navisworks has got a Kobe tool as well. So yes, it can. Yeah, but yeah, you just need to get that information through. I guess that's also all the questions. Has anybody else has got a question they want to ask? Just type away. I'm aware that we've gone over by a quarter of an hour by the hour, but we're under the 2 hours, so that's cool. I shall now stop the recording.